Today we are continuing with teachings of Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj from the book I Am That. So the questioner here is now confused between the idea of self, the personal self, and the supreme reality. He says that I get confused while having this discussion of non duality, that when is the person being referred to and when is the supreme reality, when we are viewing things from the lens of the supreme reality. And Maharaj clears this confusion. Now I'll read this text from the book. He says, the person is never the subject. You can see a person, but you are not the person. You are always the supreme, which appears at a given point of time and space as the witness, a bridge between the pure awareness of the supreme and the manifold consciousness of the person. You see, mostly what teachers do is when they are explaining this concept, they speak sometimes from the context of the person, because of course the communication is happening between you and me. That means the entity here, which is appearing as separate in this manifestation, one entity is speaking to another entity. So sometimes the reference is, the context is from that point of view. So from that point of view, things will appear to be layered. Things will appear to be dual, as if there is one supreme reality and then there is a person here who is witnessing the supreme reality. But that is not the case. What Maharaj says is that supreme reality is the only truth. And witnessing is the bridge between the source and the mind. That explanation is from the point of view of this duality, dual life. But once it is understood that things are witnessed, what non-dual teachers say, that things are apparently happening. That means there is no individual person that is seeing anything or doing anything. And what Ramana Maharishi would say, that the character you think yourself to be, you are not the character. You are not even the movie. You are the screen where the movie is being played. And that is what Maharaj says. Something similar Maharaj says here as well. He says that the person is only an appearance in consciousness. You are not the person, you are the consciousness. And thinking of ourselves as the person, we create these identifications. And these identifications become our problem. So, the questioner asks, he says that when I look at myself, I find that I am several persons fighting amongst themselves for the use of the body. Now you see, this is a very common experience, and I'm sure it is your experience. It certainly has been my experience. There are days when we are absolutely joyful, absolutely ecstatic. And then there are days when we experience an emotional unrest. And the emotions are so strong, they are so overpowering, overwhelming, that it's difficult to know that who really I am. Some days I am very peaceful, some days I am extremely irritated, angry, and grumpy. Some days I feel that everything in this universe is unconditional love. Yet there are some days where I just despise everything. I don't want to be around people. So who really am I? Am I this person who is extremely joyful 1 minute, and the next minute and the next minute that's a different person comes up who's extremely irritated? Who really I am? And to which Maharaj says that you are neither of these, because these these personifications, they come from mental tendencies which are known as samskaras. So samskara, they are the innate dispositions, they are the mental tendencies that create and that create actions, that create the karmic actions. The word sam means joining together, and kara means the action or doing. So this is a part of the subtle body where these samskaras are born. In fact, in Hinduism, it is layered into three bodies. The term body is actually layered into three aspects. One is the sthula sharir, the gross body. The other is the sukshma sharir, the subtle body. Subtle body is the place where all the thoughts, feelings, and all those things emerge. And then there is the Karan Sharira, or the causal body. Now, causal body is the source of everything. But what Maharaj is saying here, he is saying that you are none of these. You are the pure consciousness in which the three bodies and the five sheaths shine. So you are way beyond, you are the supreme reality which is untouched by any of these. But in the moments of intense emotions, we feel that we are experiencing the emotion. And these samskaras can manifest as jealousy, loneliness, anger, anxiety. And I understand that sometimes they are so powerful, they are so overwhelming that it's difficult to separate the feeling of I. So we have this tendency of saying that I am angry, I am anxious. And this is like a negative reinforcement which keeps on building this fake image, which keeps on deepening these unconscious tendencies or samskaras. So, what is the way out? The way out is to allow witnessing to happen. In the philosophy of yoga, it is a bit different, where they say that you require tapas. The word tapas means that a heat or intensified practice to release all these unconscious tendencies of anger, hatred, jealousy. But the path of jnana says that it is very simple. Simple witnessing alone can help release these tendencies. But witnessing is not something that is done by the ego. The witnessing is the absence of the sense of personal identification. Witnessing happens in the absence of doership. So you cannot force or you cannot use effort to be the witness. And this is the point that needs to be understood. The moment you use any effort or any force and try to be the witness of your emotions, you are already creating a fake image which is leading to bondage. So, all these tendencies, the anger, the hatred, the jealousy, the resentment, the malice, they all come from identifications. And identifications are held by the conceptual thought me. Me is the thinking mind, me is the identification. And then the questioner says that, okay, so I have these personalities. There are days when I'm upset, there are days when I'm happy. How do I make peace with that? And Maharaj says, you cannot. You cannot make peace with that. Because they come, all these feelings, they come from a bundle of memory. Just see them for what they are. Because I am is the only truth. Being is the ground of all experiential awareness. So if you are able to rest in that restful, pristine awareness, then what you find is that all separation has ended and witnessing begins on its own. Witness, it's not that the witnessing begins, it's just that the witness is the first, is the higher truth, is the most subtlest aspect of existence. That is why Maharaj says that it is the bridge between the source and the mind, because minds has different level of consciousness, but the source is the ultimate truth. But again, all of these divisions, in reality, they do not exist. So there is, source is the only reality. And I will read out what Maharaj says here. He says, the sense I am is your own. You cannot part with it, but you can impart it to anything. As in saying, I am young, I am rich, and so on. But such self identifications are patently false and the cause of bondage. There's a friend of mine, and he has a daughter who's who's a year younger to my daughter, and this person is actually so driven by samskaras. Now the thing is that since the samskaras are a part of the subconscious, the others can see, the others can witness them, but it is very difficult for the person who is undergoing the feeling to see what is happening. So there would be days when he would be extremely loving and caring to his daughter. And yet there would be days when he would show anger, show outbursts of anger. And it kind of traumatizes the child, the poor child. And all of us has this, have this seed, the seed or the tendency which manifests as anger and anxiety and other emotions. But when the message that you are not the doer of your actions, when it seeps deep into your being, what you realize is that these things are happening and you're not doing. So in a way, you are not responsible for these things. Yes, if some unkind action happens through you and it harms someone, you can always apologize, or or the consequences will definitely happen, and you may be quite understanding in that sense that something happened through you, you apologized, and then you had to face the consequences of it. But at the same time, there is no point of holding shame or guilt against yourself for having those feelings. And the modern day psychology puts label on these things, and they categorize into disorders like the bipolar disorder or the borderline personality and so on. But the root of all these disorders are the samskaras, the seed which produces the action, and the action produces further action. So all the subconscious tendencies produce further action. So if there is a sanskara in me, which is related to my sense of self-worth, If I'm attached to an idea or a belief, and my whole sense of identification or self worth is attached to that idea, and someone comes and challenges it, I will produce intense anxiety. And that anxiety will further fuel anger. And the anger may produce unkind actions. So that is how the karmic cycle perpetuates with these samskaras. And witnessing is not labeling the samskaras as good or bad. Witnessing is simply seeing them from the light of pure awareness, and what is seen is released. These are the words of Maharaj from this book only. What is seen is released. What comes up to your conscious surface is released. So if you are here, if you are listening to this message, that you are not the doer of your actions, it has already gone inside you like an affirmation. Now don't do anything, just let it do its job. It is not I who has the power to give you something. The message is reaching you through divine. And this appearance, what you're seeing right now, is just an instrument. This is not a guru. This is not a teacher. This is not any enlightened person. This is just an ordinary human being with all the problems and all the imperfections that everybody else has. But the message is reaching to you. Pay attention to the message. So, coming back to this discussion, the questioner then again asks, he says, I can now understand that I am not the person, but that which, when reflected in the person, gives it a sense of being. Now, what about the Supreme? In what way do I know myself as the Supreme? To which Maharaj says, I will read it out, the source of consciousness cannot be an object in consciousness. To know the source is to be the source. Fearless awareness is your very being. You are the being. It is the source, the inexhaustible possibility. You cannot know the Supreme as an object in your consciousness because your consciousness is produced by the source. You cannot know the witness as an object because witnessing is an impersonal phenomenon. So any attempt to try to be the witness will lead you to frustration because a thought will come up. It will pretend to be the witness. It will pretend to be the source. And then it will create havoc because it will be there for some time and then it will disappear. Why do we feel good after meditation? Because when we sit in meditation, at some point, the meditator disappears, and what remains is the pure witness. The witness, which is the emptiness, is witnessing the silence. And silence is your true nature. So your being, not being this or that, only your being itself brings a lot of peace, brings a lot of relief. It may not necessarily happen in meditation, it can happen even in ordinary life situations. And the rest of the discussion here is about the same subject, the absolute, how to experience the absolute. And Maharaj says that it is not an object to be recognized and stored up in the memory. You cannot conceptualize the absolute truth. That is why I say that everything teachers talk about is just a pointer. Everything is a pointer, and we are in this dual reality where we can just give you hints. Like, I am not a teacher, I don't consider myself to be a teacher. Okay, but I have a certain understanding happened, and all I'm trying to do is communicate my own experience. But it is not necessary that that has to be your reality. So all I can do from my end is give you concepts. But whether the concept will become your reality or not, that depends on you and the destiny and your destiny. But in the end, what matters is the peace. So don't take these words like enlightenment or non duality too seriously. They are just concepts. And that is what is happening here, because the questioner is trying to objectify the source. And Maharaj is constantly pointing that you cannot objectify the source. In fact, he gives an example also here where he says that um, if you see nature, you find so many objects, but it is the one eye, it is your one eye that is viewing many things, right? And then if you go a little more back into your subtle existence, what you will notice is that you have five senses, but five senses are many, but they are relating to only one mind, that is, that is bringing life to all those senses, that is interpreting the meaning. Because what you see, what you smell, what you taste, it is all interpreted by the mind, good or bad, right or wrong. Similarly, if you know the mind, there is a more subtler existence that is witnessing the mind. If that was not true, you would have never known your mind. The reason you know your mind is because there is a witness. But the witness cannot be objectified, because the moment you try to conceptualize witness, a thought will come up and it will pretend to be the witness. That is why Ramesh Balsekar or other Advaita teachers would say that witnessing is an impersonal phenomena. Witnessing happens, it is not done by anybody. And in witnessing, things are seen for what they are, not what they should or should not be. The bane of our existence, the greatest pain or suffering of our lives, is clinging to the ideas of right and wrong, good and bad, virtue and vice. We are clinging from one end to another end, and that is what is creating suffering. It takes us either in the dead past or it takes us into an imaginary future. But the joy is here right now in this moment, and this moment is timeless, it is beyond time. And this is the most basic understanding. There is no you know there is no hardcore deep philosophy in this. It is very simple. If that one reality is seen, if it is witnessed, then all answers come. In fact, all questions dissolve. So I believe that's it for today. I will see you next time. Thank you.